All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and today I'm joined with Laurie Hunt. Thank you so much, Laurie, for giving me your time today to talk about these times we're going through and keeping a positive mindset while getting creative and pivoting in your business and your life. So thank you, Laurie. If you want to just give us a few words about what you are all about.
Thanks, Michele, and thanks for having me on today. I'm Laurie Hunt, and I am the creator of the More in Me movement because I believe that we all have more in us. So I created this. It's really my philosophy and approach to working with people and to access that untapped potential. That's one side of what I do, and then the other, another aspect of my business is designing custom mentoring programs with organizations. And when I'm not working, I'm usually running or cycling or doing yoga or something outside. I'm a big fan of being outside.
Outdoors, yes, I know that, yeah. So, as I was saying before, I basically started doing these interviews when I found myself really being sucked into that black hole of fear at the beginning. So many things were changing as the world was shutting down and we were shutting down. The vendor events that I had tables booked at for March, April, May just got postponed one after another. Mm-hmm. And then social media I found just really went downhill. So I decided to start these interviews to keep, to share with the world all the fabulous entrepreneurs that I know. And just it kind of spiraled me into action, really. There was so much uncertainty, and it was changing hour by hour, and I really was glued to the news at that point in time, and just felt like felt that it was time for me to serve. I felt called to serve others. So what was your feeling as this whole thing started? And I mean, it's been a roller coaster of emotions for all of us.
Yeah, when this first hit, I was actually down in the US. My partner he's based out of North Carolina, and he had just had major surgery. So we're watching the news, and it's the first week of March, and I'm trying to figure out if I can get home because I needed to get home. And he spends a lot of time up here too, but also his health. And so it was quite a complicated thing. Yeah. And so paying a lot of attention to what was going on in the US as well as in Canada. So I got home on the 8th of March. I think Canada shut down a few days later. And then Ian had to stick around down there for a couple of weeks for doctor's appointments and so on. And then they closed the borders, but he's a Canadian citizen. So he was then able to finally get home. But yeah, like you, I was glued to the news. I was like, it was beyond comprehension, but I was watching both, because I was worried about Ian because it was lung surgery that he had, and how is he coping, and then just trying to absorb it all. I was exhausted. It was so exhausting those first few weeks.
Yeah, I think that was the case for many people. It was just so much change. It was almost like watching a movie, what was happening, because it was so foreign to us. For me, when the NBA shut down the season, that was when I thought, wow, this is really serious, because sports never gets canceled. So that was just, yeah, and that would add a layer of fear being in the US and wanting to make sure that you get home as well. So yeah, definitely there's been a lot of, and I find for a lot of people, the first 2 weeks or something, a lot of people were wiped out, just really tired. Probably the whole emotional thing. As it started, it was first all the kids were at home for March break, which we knew was happening anyhow, then the extra 2 weeks. But everybody kind of thought, oh, okay, everything's gonna be shut down for 3 weeks. That was kind of the feeling at that point in time. Of course, since then, we're now past 3 months. So have you, so in terms of your routine and things like that, I guess your routine was thrown out of sorts at the beginning, but since then you've gotten back to a routine. Has it shifted since before we shut down? Like your
Well,
morning routine
yeah,
is what I'm asking.
for those initial weeks, I was either watching the news, listening to the news, or, you know, doing things I don't watch TV, but I was watching Netflix and a lot of times doing nothing. And I said to myself, get back to your daily practices, because that's a, you know, a big thing around this whole notion of more in me is we need our daily practices to help us come back to center and ground. So after about 2 weeks, I made a concerted effort, you know, get back to my yoga practice. I was trying to run, you know, I had some big races planned.
Yes, of course you did.
I had a big race planned for August. And of course, at first didn't know if they were going to be canceled. So I'm trying to train, but I did nothing. I mean, running is like drinking water for me, just necessary. I didn't run, I didn't do anything. So bit by bit, I started with my yoga practice because that's always helpful. And I'm used to practicing every day. What I learned from that was how important these practices are. Like some days it was 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is better than no minutes. And once I started, you know, doing these things again, getting back outside, the weather was crappy. You know, we had a crappy late March and April, right? So,
yes.
But I did get out. But the other thing was these activities I do with friends. You know, we have a women's running group, there's other running groups and the triathlon club, and to have to go out all the time by myself, that was really hard. Never realized how much, I mean, I knew I appreciated having other people to do this stuff with, but wow, I really realized how important they were. Just like with, you know, with our work and our businesses and not being able to get together, there's this, it contributed, sort of accentuated the isolation.
Yeah, for sure. And it was something that, like you say, we didn't realize. It's like anything, you don't realize until it's taken away from you. And who would have thought? Who would have thought we'd been taught to stay home and don't go near any people? That's so foreign, and something that we would have, well, we took for granted because we never thought that would be taken away from us. So I think that has been difficult for all people, especially people who are alone, who live alone.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult for the kids at the beginning, depending on different ages. My daughter is 17, and for her not to be able to see her friends was a big deal. Like she would normally go and hang out after school with them at Starbucks, and all of a sudden she couldn't. So yeah, it's the whole isolation and dealing with that is another issue. But when I understand what you mean, though, you realized you can't stay like that. You got to get moving. You got to do something. And it was, I think that's been the common case for a lot of people, really getting back into some sort of routine and getting up. You know, you can still take those days off if you feel that day that you need, and acknowledge your emotions, but you do need to get back into a routine and start your day that way. In terms of do you also do meditation usually in the morning, or?
Yeah, as part of my yoga practice, meditation. I like to cook, and so, you know, more time spent in the kitchen, although I usually spend time in the kitchen anyway, and Ian likes to cook too. So, but it was one thing I noticed around the cooking was I was paying more. Like sometimes, you know, you buy fresh fruits and vegetables and then you forget about them and it's, oops, they're not good anymore. I noticed I was paying much more attention to what I purchased and what I had, because I wasn't going to the store very often. And
Exactly.
really making use of the inventory. We didn't have to go buy toilet paper. We had enough to last a few weeks until that settled down. But it was meditation. Cooking is a meditation to me. I found a lot of what I would do is I love to get up in the morning. It's kind of a decadent thing to pull out some cookbooks and sort of dream about what am I going to make today. So that's, I think, why now that I'm just realizing this now, I'd pull out these cookbooks and I'd be looking through and I'd think, whoa, what's in the fridge? And then make things according to what's in the ingredients that I had on hand. And I found I recently got a few new cookbooks with some pretty nifty, interesting recipes. So that was, having all of that extra time to do something like that. So maybe,
yes,
spending an hour with my tea and planning, which I never usually plan meals. It's okay, what's in the fridge, and I'll
because it would always, everything was always a rush, and it was rushing from one place to the next and thinking, what's the next thing I have to do? And when it all kind of got shut down, and we were forced to slow down and actually sit and reflect. And as for the grocery store, at that point in time, there were huge lines, and it was a big outing, basically, to go to the grocery store. It really was. It was a long process. It wasn't a quick thing. So you would make sure to get what you needed, and they were asking us to not go more than once a week too. So at that point in time, I think that was the case for a lot of people. But it also gave you the time to be present and think of what do you really enjoy doing, and get back to, like you say, spending more time cooking and with your cookbooks where you wouldn't have necessarily had the time before. So what are there other things that you kind of remembered that you used to like doing that you started doing? Or
well, one interesting thing for me with the timing of all of this, I decided to go through a rebranding process, and I was in the midst of transferring my website and everything onto an e-commerce e-learning platform. So that's, I was right there in the thick of that when this happened. So it was actually perfect because I was already in the process of putting things online, and it's been nice to have the extra time to learn technology, spending time to figure out how do I, use this video applications, how to do these nifty things. And I had great people helping me. So it was from a business perspective. The in-person workshops I was supposed to facilitate got canceled. Actually, one big mentoring program that I was launching, it's a repeat program that I've done with a client for quite a few years. We just switched it into all online. I mean, I had the training online already, but we did the launch last week and we did it virtually. So I actually had the chance with a client to figure out how to do the whole thing and make it work virtually. So now I can add that to the list of what's available. So in that sense, it's I didn't feel the pressure to be out. The extra time was actually time for me to learn my new online platform and get things created and play around. And I'm still doing that with even just saying it now out loud, I'm realizing how much calmer I am. And that's possibly because less distraction, not running out. But I noticed, so we opened up stage 2 10 days ago, got my bangs cut. But then, I had a dentist appointment booked for last week, and she called and said, do you still want to come? We've got everything is fine. So I thought, well, might as well go. And then there was something else. And then I started to notice even this going to appointments and doing everyday things, it was disruptive. And Ian and I had a chat, and I said, things are opening up, but it hasn't gone away, this virus. So I think it would be a good idea to still kind of, really limit some of the interactions. Some friends were going out running on Sunday, and I debated and debated. And then I thought, well, it was pouring rain at the time they wanted to go, as it turns out. But I thought, you know what? Running with a group of people, we're side by side or one behind the other. We're in like this big cloud of all this stuff we're not supposed to be breathing in. And while the cases are low up here, they haven't disappeared. And so I kind of, thought, I don't know, as much as I wanted to. So there's this interesting, the pull to be with people and to resume some basic stuff like hair and dentist. And then I'm noticing this, reluctance at the same time, because I kind of want to protect this extra space and I don't want to get sick. And so I've just been, it's been interesting to notice the different feelings that I have now that I have more choice about what I can do.
Right. And I think I've heard that from quite a few people, that same sentiment. We've gotten used to having that extra time and not the distractions. And so you don't necessarily want to be running out. And I don't also, it just doesn't feel the same with all the extra protection and added, added layers of protection. I too actually went to the dentist with my daughter. I think it was last week. Yeah. And it just, it was fine, but it took longer because I had to wait in between the appointments for her, like they have to allocate a time. And then I also went to Home Sense because I hadn't been at all. And it just nothing felt the same. So it really wasn't. And then I thought, you know what, I'm in no rush to get back to this. Hair is a different story.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to get mine done too. But so things, you kind of pick and choose, but I'm not rushing off to go to the malls as they open today. I've been doing stuff that I need online, getting things that I need online, and it kind of feels like I'm gonna continue doing that. And I also have liked the idea of having no distractions and being able to focus. Like you say, the other thing is there's so much information online. When it first started and everybody was offering webinars and everything, on different topics. So of course that would help you with your branding and figuring out the technology and things like that as well.
Yeah, one thing I've learned, so I've been paying a lot of attention to what's being provided and offered online, and there's just so much. And I started to wonder, all these Zoom meetings are being recorded, and so as a facilitator, there's always guidelines or practices that we use to facilitate a room and how we set it up and structure it. But this isn't happening in online sessions. And the one thing is this recording of meetings. And I thought, there are different types of meetings. And I wonder if we really need to record all the meetings, depending what it is. If it's a information sharing meeting and a teaching, sure, record it so other people can learn. But then there are other meetings that are more of a conversation and just learning personal development stuff. And a little bit, I wonder, do we really need to record those? And then people have their video off. And then I wonder, I wonder if we weren't recording, would people leave their video on? And, thinking in-person meetings, we don't record them. Like, you show up.
We don't.
Yeah, so I've been observing a lot of that because of the Zoom, so much Zoom. And
yes. And so much online. And I found myself getting, it was probably the end of March, beginning of April, that I was finding myself signing up for everything because there were so many things that interested me, but I was signing up for those. Plus I was still doing these interviews. And then I was like, I had no time in between to process anything that I had learned on the webinars. So then I decided, well, this is crazy. I just can't. There were so many great webinars out there, but I knew that I couldn't do that unless I was gonna work 12, 14 hours a day. And I figured I would burn out if I kept doing that. So
plus then there's your whole jewelry making, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. So
which
yeah.
I would think that would be a pretty soothing. Is that a soothing practice for you when you're making jewelry?
Yeah, it is definitely. It's maybe you could even call it a form of meditation, really, because I focus on it and block out anything external and get right into it. So
yeah, you're working with the stones, and the stones have energy, and
yes,
that kind of creative, just, yeah, I would think that it's really, it necessitates that you're really present and just kind of in your own groove, in the zone to do what you do.
True. Yes. And the thing is, at the beginning, it was probably a good month that I didn't do I didn't make anything. I between focusing on just doing these interviews and talking to people and still making sure we had groceries and that kind of thing, and keeping safe and sanitizing and stuff like that, I didn't do anything for probably a good month, and I really felt it. I felt the need to get back to it. So yeah, and now I've been making some stuff to, because I need that on I guess it's my form of self-care, really, as well. So
I saw your post where you were suggesting to people that when we're on all these Zoom calls, we need a signature necklace. I thought that was a great idea.
Well, it is true.
Like, and to feel good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is too, right now, as you say, there's so many Zooms, everybody's on Zoom, everything's online, workshops, conferences, webinars, individual, just people doing videos. Like it's our only option right now. So the landscape is a little crowded online. So you really do need some way to stand out from the crowd, and having a statement necklace when you're on Zoom, people will people will notice that, and they'll remember that, even if they don't necessarily remember your name and the details of everything. They'll just remember, and they'll notice you by that. So that's my feeling, and really, because it doesn't matter what you're wearing on the bottom, because nobody sees. So
and you know what, as I was listening to you, it occurred to me that and I've shut my video off, but usually that's because I'm doing something else, which, why am I on the call if I don't want to pay attention? But how we present ourselves, right, is part of the whole business, selling, relationship building.
yes.
And so it's an opportunity, having video live, that's how we get to know each other, and when we're sort of hidden behind. And so this idea of having a signature piece or something that makes us feel really good, and to show up, it helps us to show up, right, and be present. And I think it's maybe something that people are missing, as an opportunity to get some exposure on these calls. I mean, it is the way we have to network at the moment, is through some type of video call mostly. Sometimes people, I've had phone conversations, which are kind of fun too, actually. It's a different level of connection. But, if we are on these video calls all the time, it would help us to show up, be there, turn your video on, show off your lovely whatever. You could do a good marketing campaign on that, Michele, how to show up and leave your video on and show up.
Yeah, because it's I think, again, we weren't sure how long this was going to go on for, and everybody kept talking about, when we get back when we get back to work, when we get back to, you know, back open and things like that. But as we know, there's, you know, it's going to be a very slow opening. We don't even know what's going to happen in the fall. So this Zoom and online space and webinars and online conferences are here to stay. And some of the conferences that I had from the spring have been postponed to the fall. Initially, they were postponed to the fall. Now the decision's been made that they will run online. So yeah, exactly. This is, you know, this is the time that we have to figure out what the best way is to show up online. And creating your own personal brand is more important than ever right now.
Yeah,
because this is continuing.
I think you could do a great little promotion on that, like that message, like getting that message across to people. Leave your video on, show up.
Yes.
Have something to show off, to feel good. That's, yeah, you could play with that. You could have a lot of fun. You know, when I lived in Boston, a friend of mine was a gemologist. She was a engineer, and this was just a side thing of hers. And they used to have these industry trade shows in this huge, in this town just outside of Boston. And she would take us, so we got in for free, and most of the stuff in this place was half price, and then she could get us half price off that because she had, you know, the special whatever. Oh, nice. And it was just nuts, like nuts in the sense of like being in the midst of all that fabulous stuff, right? There were just like, you could just buy the actually, that's where I got this ring. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, nice. Yes. Yeah, very nice.
But she could also tell us what the quality was. So I really appreciate what you do. Just from that, you know, couple of years where I used to hang out with her and see all this stuff. I wonder if they, well, obviously not now, they're probably not doing it, but I wonder if they still hold those. And I suspect they do.
Yeah, they huge. Probably.
It was huge. You'd love it.
Yes. So that, yeah, no, for sure. I'm sure I would have. And I don't know what's going to be in the future in terms of those kind of, you know, large events to that extent. So
I think it'll come back, though. I mean, they just, once there's a vaccine, right, which the US is still saying quite possibly by the end of the year. But we have to be careful until the vaccine is available. But I think we will. We're human beings. We need to connect. We need that personal touch, and maybe this will. Well, I know for me, it's certainly making me realize how much I miss all those hugs and interaction. And then, you know, there's also something that happens with these. They're called mirror neurons, whatever. When we're in the same space and engaging with someone, there's something going on literally, like physiologically between people. It's not accidental why we're drawn to being close to people. So I think we will get back there, but I suspect it might be this time next year.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. So I do see a lot of people getting very creative with the online space and some of these conferences, like you were saying on your launch that you did. Now you've done that. So going forward, even if you know, once we get back to doing some live workshops and things like that, you'll still have this online piece to supplement in addition. And I found that with some people who had brick and mortar stores who have now, since this period of time, they've created a website, so they'll have online presence as well. And people running events too, because with the online conference, you can capture the whole world, a global audience. So just supplement that with the live events, and you know, it's getting us to be more creative and figure out more options in our business, which will just help us going forward, even when we do open up.
Yeah, and you know, again, I'm really enjoying this conversation, Michele. I'm having some new ideas it's always so nice to take the time to reflect and to reflect out loud. But, you know, so while we're in this space, you know, with me, who I'm not, I like online stuff, but I'm not a super huge fan of it. And yet here I am putting my stuff online, but it's making me think deeply about how I'm putting it out there and what I'm putting out. But it's also an opportunity for me to spend more time with social media, because I'm not, I don't naturally gravitate to that.
Right.
But I can, you know, put this stuff out there. People can get to know me, and when things, you know, in-person stuff starts to happen, then, you know, have built up more awareness, more connections, build relationships. So, you know,
Right.
there's good and
Exactly.
there's, you know, I took this leadership training with this woman, Marita Freejohn. She's just such a smart woman. And she used to always say, who knows what's good and what's bad? And it's so true, because sometimes in the worst of times, there's goodness comes out of that. There's good comes out of that. So it's, I think if we can just stay open, and it doesn't mean it's not hard. I mean, some people are just having an awful time, you know,
Yeah.
trying to survive. That's all true. I'm not diminishing that, but there's little nuggets of good things that we can lean into, I think, to sustain us through all
Right.
that troubled stuff.
Right. Exactly. There is a silver lining underneath, really. It's it's given us the chance, or it's also propelled people into action to finally do things that they've said, oh, when I have time, I'll do, or you know, something that they've wanted to do, or something that they should have been doing as well. And the online space and the use of technology is not going away.
No.
It's just going to be used more, but it's figuring out how to use it to create a better, better community, how to serve your clients as well. And like you said about relationship building, this is a time to build relationships and get to know other people. And having this technology to use Zoom in this manner, I found myself to be reaching out to a lot more people than I would have on prior.
Yeah, it's amazing what you've done with these interviews. Over 70? That's fantastic, Michele.
Yeah, it's I've really enjoyed doing it and speaking to everybody. And what I found from it is that so many people are, everybody's going through the same thing. Everybody's realizing that I'm not alone. What I'm feeling is I'm not in my own little bubble. Everybody's been feeling emotions and up and down, and dealing with people at home. Some people all of a sudden have everybody at home and they have to navigate that, and if everybody working from home, or kids at home. You're building your business, you're working on your business, and you have to navigate that as well. So yeah, it's really showing us, it's really giving us the chance to determine what our values are and what's important to us.
Yeah, definitely. That's for sure.
That
Can
it has.
Can you hear my cat yowling in the background?
Yes. Interesting.
It's a Siamese cat. He was a rescue, and when he's, nobody's around, then he just decides to yowl until someone goes and says hello to him.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I have two cats, and yet, but they don't. They're not. Maybe it's a Siamese cat that that does that.
Yeah, apparently it is common among Siamese cats, and quite common. 2 a.m., 3 a.m. He'll come yowling down the hall, hop on the bed, and then want to cuddle. He's like, "Why did you do the yowling thing?"
Okay, that's very interesting. But yes, I think it's funny because I did see a meme earlier on talking about the dogs and how happy they were that everybody's home. And then I saw something else that was talking about a cat and saying, why is my servant at home? Sorry, my servant in my house all day. Yeah. Or something like that. And no, it's really pets have become very important, for this period of isolation, and especially for some people who are older and are alone, and I think dog adoptions are way up too, as far as what I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we can cuddle them, right? When we missing this touch, we can at least cuddle although they say that your pets can be a transmitter of the virus because people are touching and cuddling
Yeah,
them.
I've heard that too, but I think, there's so many things that we hear and so much information, and it's almost conflicting. And I think there's still a lot of unknowns around the whole thing, the whole virus as well, even from what they know.
Yeah, I agree. How that's in, so I think with our own pets, it doesn't matter. But when I'm out running, if I see someone's dog, I usually stop and pat it and play with it. And I haven't been doing that,
No,
And
I know.
I feel sort of bad because I don't want to be one of those runners that goes like this. But I just sort of side step around. And I think the owners, like everybody's just weird, right? Like walking down a path and you do this separation thing. But
Yeah, I think we've all gotten used to that a lot, and I'm just hoping that doesn't stay, because we need to be around people. We need to be. We need to be. We need that touch. We need that touch as well. So, well, it's been great talking to you, Laurie. So
yeah, likewise. Thanks for this touch. It was really a really enjoyable conversation, Michele.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's great. I look forward to when we can see each other in person again, and I guess who knows when Fem City will get back to having anything in person. I'm enjoying all the online interactions and the online meetings that we're continuing to have, but it's it's really, I think one thing is, I feel like community has really come together, and people have really come together, and I'm just hoping that we continue this whole feeling of community and wanting to help and serve each other for the good of everyone, because that's what it's
Yeah,
all about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So many people reaching out and, yeah, trying to do our best, right?
Yes, that's all we can do, is to do our best and continue to do so. So thank you so
Thank
much
you, Michele.
for your time, and I will put your information underneath this interview when I put it up as well. All right.
Okay, thanks again. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.